Welcome to Real Christianity, a weekly show designed to help Christians know their Bible, defend their faith, and truly understand what it means to follow Jesus. The premise is simple. The culture is getting louder. The church is getting flashier, but few pastors are teaching on how to live a biblical life. My name is Dale Partridge, along with my incredible wife, Veronica. Join us as we start an important conversation about what it really means to be a Christian.
Welcome, guys. Today we have a special show, and it's titled
The Future of Real Christianity, episode number 100.
100 episodes. Guys, we've been doing these podcasts, and we haven't missed one episode for 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. Which, tell you what, guys.
Very close to missing.
We've come very close. Yeah, we're recording like at 10 p.m. the night before it drops.
At 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. whenever it comes out.
On Eastern time. So we are just celebrating the fact that we actually have done 2 years of this. I wanted to share a few stats about the show and give you guys an update about the future of the show. We are going to change the format of the show and have a new structure, and some things are going to be shifting that are good. But we want to share that with you. But before I jump in on that, I just want to tell you what we've accomplished, because it's really just the Lord's work, and it's really beautiful. So at the time of this recording, we have 1,847,496 episode downloads. And that just blows my mind. There might actually even be more, because there was a pruning of and cleaning of downloads through our host. And so it might actually be more than that. But even still, I just go, wow, 1.8 million people have downloaded a Real Christianity podcast episode. I guess it's not actually that many people. It's probably more like a couple 100,000 have downloaded several. Mm-hmm. But this equals out to be about 25 to 30,000 weekly individual listeners of the show. And so think about this with me for a second. It's like a church of 25 to 30,000 people every Wednesday. And so that's how I think about it when I prepare my notes and when I pray about the show, because it is a massive audience that the Lord has given us to steward. A couple other interesting stats is that Real Christianity has 5,322 reviews, which puts the show in the top 1% of most reviewed podcasts. And these are some fun stats that I have different apps that tell us these things. So the largest podcast category on iTunes is the religion and spirituality podcast or category. I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
I think it's probably because every church,
and it's every religion.
Yes, and so in that category of religion and spirituality, 99,390 shows exist, and Real Christianity regularly sits in the top 200 of those 99,000 shows. We've actually appeared in the top 10 a few times, and the top 100 about 6 out of 10 weeks. So we're regularly in the top 100, and that is just because the Lord and because you guys have been faithful and loyal listeners to the show. So we want to thank you about that. The show has listeners in 120 countries. Amazing. You look at this map and you're like, wow, there are people listening in countries that I forgot about, in terms of just like, wow, my geography is so bad. And we're on every single continent except Antarctica. We just got to find one listener to tune in. Whoever lives down there.
I don't think anyone lives down there.
I don't think anyone lives down there either. So yeah, Veronica's going to share just a little bit about some of the episodes that we've done.
Yeah, I want to share with you guys our top 5 episodes, the most listened to episodes that we've ever done, in case you guys want to go back and listen to any of them.
Yeah.
Number 1 would be episode number 68, the Bible's position on tattoos, marijuana, and alcohol.
Yeah, that was I think a lot of people are.
Is that number 1? That's the number 1
Yeah,
listened to?
that was the number 1 listened to.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think people really want a practical, obviously just they're looking for practical information, like how should we be viewing these
That's
things.
so fascinating to me, because if I were to see like all our podcasts written out on a board or something, I would not have thought that would have been number 1, but
Yeah.
cool. Okay, number 2 is episode 33. Should Christian women wear a head covering while praying or prophesying? That one was very popular. I remember when that one came out.
Yep.
Number 3, episode 65. Should Christians celebrate Halloween? Number 4, episode 81. The Bible on yoga, the Enneagram, and progressive Christianity. And then number 5 has 2 episodes because they were tied.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 58 is your worship music teaching false doctrine, and episode 67, the self-love delusion.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I thought the yoga, the Enneagram, progressive Christianity episode would definitely be popular. The Halloween episode, I think we did that even twice of different versions of
We've
that.
done one each year.
Each year.
2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so when that time comes around again. But yeah, is your worship music teaching false doctrine? That one's probably one of my favorite episodes, because we are, the more and more we've learned the richness of biblical hymns. And we love hymns now because the richness of the lyrics, and that the songwriters have the same accountability to write biblically accurate song lyrics as pastors do in writing biblically accurate sermons. And so that's just a fun episode. And then the false the self-delusion or self-love delusion. We live in a self-love culture. That's a good one to listen to, episode 67.
Yeah, I would have thought that one would have done better than the number 1 episode, just because of the culture that we live in right now. Everyone is always talking about self-love. So
yeah, so fascinating.
I mean, it still did well. Obviously, it's in the top 5, but anyway.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who have been with us since the very beginning, you know that we started this podcast under the name Ultimate Marriage. Mm-hmm. And for the first 30 episodes or so, we just covered marriage and family. And then we shifted to the name Real Christianity. So we have a program still. It's a 6-week marriage program called ultimatemarriage.com. And it's a biblical marriage mentor program. Mm-hmm. And we basically touched on a handful of those topics of the program. But then we decided, you know what? We want to talk about things outside of marriage and family that our name kind of limited us to. So we changed it to Real Christianity about 18 months ago. And it gave us an ability to cover a broader base of topics. So we actually want to continue that journey of growing and evolving Real Christianity. We're going to keep the name the same, so that's going to stay the same. But we really enjoy searching the scriptures to discover the Bible's instruction and wisdom on 2 really main issues. One is theology, which covers a lot, right? We can just fit almost everything in theology, but getting down to understanding the Lord in a theological sense. How does it work together in the Bible? We think about the great commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and to really emphasize that last category of mental understanding of the Lord, because the heart can't rejoice in what the mind does not understand. And so it gives us a really beautiful chance to help explain some of these deeper and more difficult topics of theology. The second category that I want to focus on is church. You guys know that our heart is we are a church planting, a house church planting ministry, but really the ecclesiological doctrines of church. How should church be operating? What should church look like? What does the Bible say about church? So those 2 categories, theology and church, are going to be the future focus of the show. And we're also planning to make a handful of other shifts, and there's about 5 of them, and I'll let Veronica open up with the big one.
All righty. Shift to number 1.
Yes.
I will actually no longer be on the podcast. As a pastor's wife and a mother to 3 young children in homeschooling, and the stress and trials that come with local ministry, I've prayerfully decided that it's actually more fruitful for my first ministry, which is our family,
Mm-hmm.
to actually separate myself a bit from the public ministry online. So much time and energy go into putting a podcast out, research,
Study.
taking notes, studying, things like that. And Dale's the type of personality that he can just whip up his notes really quick and just kind of go off the fly type of thing, where I am much more like I need to sit down and write out my notes and write them all down and think about what I'm going to say. I'm not very good on my feet. And so it just takes a lot of time for me to be doing this every single week. Now, this doesn't mean that I might not jump back in sometime in the future, but right now, in the midst of some very difficult times in our world, we simply believe it's best to just allow me to focus my efforts on serving our family and our local church.
Yeah, and this is a hard decision, but Veronica is my support also in terms of as just being a wife, and when she's out in the front in the public eye and getting critiqued as much as I get critiqued and having to do theological study, and it really takes away from her ability to support our home and support me in a sense, because she's got a burden on her of ministry that is a lot. It's just a lot to do the online ministry, the podcast, to do all the home stuff. I'm pastoring a local church as well. And so there's all the relationships there. And in a house church, sure, it's smaller, but it's deeper. And so there's deep relationships through these communities. And we just think that it's a wise investment for the time, especially because our kids are young. We're not going to get this time back, and our kids are little right now, and we want to take care of them and really pay attention to them in this time. We don't want to create the kids that go, Mom and Dad were always doing ministry and forgot about us, or put ministry before us.
And have it turn into any type of bitterness.
Yes, towards ministry. Yeah, so this is just a wise decision, I think. Second, so Veronica's leaving as number one. Number two is we're going to actually see a brand new podcast cover in your podcast app in the next 2 weeks when we release our first episode under this new format. So keep an eye out for a new podcast cover, a design. It's going to be different colors, and it probably won't even have my picture on it. It'll just say Real Christianity. Third, the show is going to be built on questions from listeners. And so each week, I'm going to answer one important question about theology and the church. And, these are going to be important questions, vital questions. And so I get lots and lots of questions. If I ask for questions, I'll get thousands of questions. So the cool thing about this is that we get some really good questions.
Hundreds of questions without even asking for questions.
Yes. So we're going to have some good questions.
And those questions have been a blessing to us. They've allowed us to create content based off of those questions, but there's just no way we can answer all of them.
Yeah, I think about like the Ask Pastor John podcast from Desiring God. That's what he does. He just answers a question, and he's like, God, I don't know, episode 900 or something like that, or 500 or something. So the other thing, which is still in the third point here, is that we plan to keep each episode shorter. A lot of our episodes have gone to like 30, 40 minutes. We're going to have these episodes aimed to be 15 minutes long. Now, some of them will be up to 20, but they will never be more than 20 minutes, and they'll be never less than 10. And the reason is that's where most people stop in the statistics anyways, because they have a 15 to 20 minute drive to work and they might finish it on the way back. But it's really nice to be able to finish an episode in one sitting. And so we want to aim to help you guys. Hey, here's a 15 to 20 minute deep end of the pool theological, encouragement for the day. And those are going to continue to come out on Wednesdays. Number 4, we're not going to be doing video any longer. And there's a variety of reasons for this, but one of them, just to be honest, is that we live on a farm. And it is a ton of work to get it uploaded here, especially if we're filming in 4K, because
We don't have great internet here.
We don't have great internet, and it's like it's not a
it's
money
like
thing.
the best internet you can get out here, and it's not great.
Yeah, it's really, really slow. And so we have to like drive the cards into town and drop them off to like our editor. And it's just been hard to do that. And so, but we will be uploading the videos still to YouTube. It's just going to be an audio format, and you can get that at our relearn.org YouTube. We've now changed our YouTube account to be relearn.org instead of Dale and Veronica Partridge. And this, again, it's going to not just speed up the process in uploading, but speed up the process in filming, like getting rid of that, and then editing is way easier. So this saves the ministry a little bit of money, and it also speeds up the process and makes it more
Manageable?
Manageable, yeah, good word. And then lastly, after this episode, we're actually going to take 2 weeks off. So for 2 Wednesdays after this, you're not going to see a Real Christianity podcast released. Between that time, we're going to try to do like 4 to 8 episodes back to back there. We're going to record a new introduction and a shorter introduction, because I know a lot of you who are regular listeners are going, oh my gosh, I have to listen to the first minute of your introduction every week. I've heard it so many times.
You don't. You just skip 30 seconds.
I'm sure that's what everybody probably does.
That's what I do. To
everybody probably does.
Podcasts I listen to.
So we're going to try to do a really quick, easy introduction.
Dive right in type thing.
Type show, yeah. And a new outro and new music and such. So those are the 5 things that are going to change.
Yeah, and so we also wanted to share a quick update on our ministry. The new relearnchurch.org website is almost done, which will be a wonderful resource of content for those interested in exploring Biblical House Church.
Yeah, and Veronica just said it out of sheer memory, but it's relearn.org.
What did I say?
You said Relearn Church.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So we've decided to change the name to relearn.org. One is that we got that domain, which was like a long process to get. But 2, a lot of people thought we were a church.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to get confused with a church. We're a church planting. We're a house church planting ministry.
Relearn.org.
Relearn.org. Yeah. So that site's going to be done in a couple weeks. And so we hope that it'll kind of line up with when we release the podcast. But that's big news. And stjustins.org is another part of our ministry. It's a companion ministry to relearn.org. If relearn.org is the website where you explore and learn and get introduced to Biblical House Church, then St. Justin's is the application of that journey. It's, now I've learned, now I want to do something about it. And so St. Justin's, it's stjustins.org, and that's our online house church planting school. And we have a limited number of spots available for the first year, and we have several men actually enrolled already in the program. But if you're interested in exploring formal church and pastoral training, we are putting together a really beautiful faculty of men and a great group of advisors, of theological advisors. We have several of them locked in now, and we're still in discussions with a few more. Go ahead and visit stjustins.org and just request more information, and we would start the process of talking to you about that.
Okay, and lastly, we just want to thank each and every single one of you guys who has faithfully listened to the show. The Lord has used this podcast to accomplish some of the most incredible, amazing things that we've heard, at least testimonial wise. We've heard stories of people coming to faith through the podcast, which is a huge win. We've heard of men returning home from adultery because of something that they listened to during a particular episode. We've also heard of couples who have decided to have more kids, or people who were set free from pornography. Hundreds of Christians who've decided to commit to reading the entire Bible. Divorces that were canceled, and people who decided to be baptized, relationships that were restored, people who started Bible studies, and just the stories just go on and on and on. So Dale and I just want to say thank you so much. We're humbled by every time we hear one of these incredible testimonies. It's very humbling. But all glory to God. We are grateful that He allowed us to do this for a season. So we just want to say thanks.
Yeah, it's we have all these stories from the reviews. Mm-hmm. When you read through the reviews, it's like they'll make you cry. I mean, they're just incredible how the Lord has used a podcast of all things, us sitting in our studio, recording these things, and he just uses them for his kingdom. And so praise God. And we just wanted to thank you guys for just being faithful and allowing us to serve you guys in this ministry. The last thing I want to say before we close out is that all of this, everything that we've done, everything that the Lord's done through this podcast, all that it's accomplished spiritually, all that it's accomplished as a podcast itself, it was only made possible because of people's faithful financial support. If you don't know, the show is 100% listener supported. And so all of our expenses, the camera equipment, the microphones, like I just had to buy new microphones for the next show, the way we were adjusting and getting better microphones. And, it was $700 to do.
The editor.
Yeah. Paying the editor, paying the, for just all the, equipment and the lights and the study time that it takes for me. On a general episode, I'll sometimes spend 2 to 10 hours studying for a particular episode. And every single expense is covered by the donations of those who tune in each week. And so the Lord is using your donations and allowing us to produce more resources for the kingdom of God. And so for those who are new and have not made a donation to support the ministry, would you guys consider praying what the Lord would have you do? We promise that we will steward every single dollar with integrity and care. And if the Lord leads you to do so, you can make a donation at relearnchurch.org/donate. We're still on that domain, relearnchurch.org/donate. So thank you guys for joining us for this important update. And I will see you guys on the next episode in the new format on June 24th. Take care.
See you guys.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Real Christianity. Real Christianity is an audio ministry of relearnchurch.org. If you'd like more information on how to live out a biblical life, relearnchurch.org hosts a variety of articles, podcasts, sermons, and videos to support your journey. Real Christianity is 100% listener-supported ministry, and if you'd like to support our efforts, simply click the Donate tab at relearnchurch.org. You can also connect with both Veronica and I on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for daily lessons and Bible teachings. Thank you for being with us today. We hope to see you next Wednesday for another episode of Real Christianity.